Silent Bob, get old, I'm Kevin Smith.
Jason Mewes!
We are in Winnipeg. Go Jets, go! You're not going to say anything until you shut up. Wow, that's awesome. This is one of the only places in the world you'll find where people love a hockey team more than their spouses. This city has a big time passion for their hockey team, which they just got back after a 15-year absence. The story of the Winnipeg Jets and this city is completely romantic in the way that, like, when people fall in love with hockey, the romance of hockey, not cold hard stats and shit, who did what, who's stronger than who and shit, who fucked who. Which I've heard Sidney Crosby goes crazy. Once you get past all that stuff, there's the romanticism, I think, of hockey that kind of lures people like myself. And I'm not an athlete, I didn't play sports when I was a kid. I played Little League for about a season or two. They put me out in the left field all the time. At one point they brought me as a shortstop. I was talking to some kid about Return of the Jedi, missed the only ball ever. When it toured me, so I was not like a sports-oriented person, but it's the romance of sports that lures you in. And I've talked about the Winnipeg Jets on Twitter because we actually, Smodco, tried to buy season tickets to the Jets. Because, and this is so stupid now in retrospect, but I did it because I so wanted to see Canada make it 7. I wanted to see them get a 7th team, and I really wanted to see this community get their team back because part of me, like evolving and growing up and shit, it has a lot to do with the romanticism of the Winnipeg Jets, and I'll tell you why. It's a very long, involved story. Bear with me, but it's kind of touching. After Zach and Miri Make a Porno came out and didn't do well, I swung to my library and started smoking a shit ton of weed. And I've talked about it on one of those specials, I think Too Fat for 40 pretty much. I sum it up there. But one of the things that I talked about there on that special, and I've talked about many places, many of the podcasts, one of the things that I did while I was sitting there blazing was watch this box set for Hockey of People's History, a CBC miniseries they did maybe over fucking 5, 10, maybe almost 10 years ago, I think. I had been sitting on my shelf forever, man, and I was like, one day I'll get to it. I just buy DVDs like crazy, never really open them. I figure one day my legs are gonna collapse under all this fucking weight, and I'll be laying in bed crippled anyway, and that way I could be like, well, now I can watch all these DVDs. Fetch me Joanna Man. Sir, this has never been opened. I was like, none of them have. So you know, I get a lot of DVDs, they sit around for a while. This was the first period in a long time. I've been very busy making flicks and shit. And finally, I kind of just stopped at a wall and was burning in the library, just blazing, licking my wounds, because I wanted Zach and Mary to do better. Everyone said, this is going to be the highest grossing Kevin Smith film. And they were right. It was the highest grossing Kevin Smith film by $250,000. Not a real huge benchmark. So I'm sitting there blazing, I'm watching Hockey of People's History. One of the stories, and it's broken up into chapters. One of the chapters, I think, is Winter of Our Discontent. And it tells the story of how in mid-90s, like 1995, small market teams in the NHL were hit really fucking hard by rising salaries. And Winnipeg's wrapped up in it. Winnipeg got their first big professional sports team when the WHA kicked open their doors, and they made an offer to Bobby Hull. They were like, they were competing, WHA was competing hockey league. He's looking at me blankly like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sometimes I forget, you don't pay attention to this shit. The WHA was a competing hockey league to the NHL, rose up in the early 70s. They decided, hey man, let's bring big time hockey, yes.
What is that's an acronym, right?
I mean, technically, I don't think so. Technically, I thought an acronym has to be like a name, like NASA or school.
Well, NHL.
Wait, I'm sorry?
You are correct.
I'm correct? Fuck you!
Well, what does it stand for?
The WHA World Hockey Association.
Ooh.
Do you know what the stands for?
National Hockey League, right? It's a pseudonym. All right.
It's initialism?
Initialism.
There's a name for it?
I like it.
Or a movement? I'd like to join this movement. Particularly if they have orgies.
Initialism.
All right, so the WHA launches kind of here because Ben Hatskin, who was one of he was the founder of the Winnipeg Jets, the guy that opened the franchise here, but also one of the key movers and shakers behind the WHA. The idea was bring big-time hockey to small-town towns across America and across Canada. The NHL had only had about 6 teams for the longest time. They expanded at one point, added a few more teams, but the teams were never going to go to small places like Winnipeg. So the WHA offered hope, like, hey man, we'll bring big-time hockey and fuck the NHL. We got our own league and shit like that. Very independently oriented, very independently minded, and kind of beautiful story. It doesn't really work out for them in the end, but they change hockey forever. Like, it's true, like all great stories, is that, you know, they have this wonderful meteoric rise and then something that just can't sustain itself. Eventually it crashes back down to earth, but they kind of win ultimately. All they wanted to do was kind of get some more teams into the NHL and change some of the rules. Eventually that's what happens. The whole WHA doesn't get absorbed into the NHL, but a few teams do. But that's at the end of the story. We're at the beginning of the story.
Wait, before that.
Yes.
So wait, does WHA play NHL when they are on the move?
What a great question. Kind of like, did DC ever fight Marvel?
Yes.
They did not. The NHL hated the WHA and didn't even want to acknowledge their existence for the longest time because it represented a threat to them. And it did eventually hurt them. At first they were like, fuck these upstarts. Nothing's ever going to break us with the fucking NHL. They'll have no effect whatsoever. And the WHA, the people that were going to buy franchise, they got together, the franchise owners, and they were like, look, in order to make a big impact, we need to get a star. If we had one NHL star come over here, other defections would happen. We weren't even alive at that point. No, he's not our story. We need one NHLer. They reach out to Bobby Hull. Bobby Hull is playing for the Chicago Blackhawks at this point. One of the most famous hockey player in the world at this moment in time. He won a Stanley Cup with Chicago as well. They say, hey man, would you come play for the WHA? What would it take for you to come? They know he's unhappy in Chicago. And Bobby Hull, very kind of funny dude, likes to crack wise and shit. Maybe the J. Mewes of his time, if you will. Although very, very good at something. Hey man. Anyway, you'll see. This is all me. So I forgot where I was.
So they were like, you know what, I'm going to make a joke.
Thank
you
you.
want me to go there, I want a blowjob. No, he doesn't say that.
No. Story. Because I was like, is that what happened? No. They asked him, what would it take for you to come join the WHA? And Bobby Hull goes, oh, give me $1 million and I'll come play. And so they got together and they're like, it'll be worth it, let's do it. And they offered him $1 million, and it was the most an athlete had ever been paid in the history of sports. It was a hockey player, first one to get $1 million. And they offered it to Bobby Hull, and he was like, I guess I'll take it.
So what was the average back then for most players?
What a great question. He's learning. At one point, at his height, when he won the Stanley Cup, which was 1961, I want to say. I think it was in the Blackhawks one. Was it, or 62? He was making 4 figures.
4 fingers? No, wait, 4 fingers. So he was making about...
He was in the thousands.
$10,000.
No.
All right, $9,000.
The show falls apart when we get to the math portion.
Actually, it might have been making $999,000.
No, motherfucker. Max, and his bosses were cruel. He was making $9,999.
Okay, that's the max he was making.
Max, exactly.
Okay.
4 figures. So, for them to come along and say, we'll give you $1 million was just like, oh my God, what the fuck, this is astounding. So he takes it, and this changes hockey forever, because all of a sudden then you've got other fantastic players who are like, oh, Hull's getting $1 million, man. How come I'm not getting a fucking $1 million? His salaries start rising. The other thing the WHA does is kind of shatter the NHL's hold on players. If you were a player that was making $9,000 a year, let's say every 2 years your contract came up, there was no free agenting. Basically, you were beholden to the club. If they wanted you, they just re-upped you. So you couldn't boost your salary. Even if you were a fucking superstar, you were always gonna get paid this. It favored the owners in a big, bad fucking way. That's why there are only 6 teams, because like, keep everyone the fuck out. We've got the greatest scam in the world going on here. And then finally, when the WHA comes in, there's an alternative. Suddenly it's like, fuck them, fuck your old man's hockey league, come play with us and we'll actually pay you fucking cash money, bitch. You see the check we wrote Bobby Hull?
So wait, but how did he get out of his contract for Chicago?
Because he just left. He was like, fuck you guys. And he broke his contract. And the NHL took him to court saying, you can't break your contract. We own you, essentially.
He's like, I'm rich, bitch!
He went to court, and the WHA went to court to fight the NHL, going like, you can't own a person like this. He's not playing in your league anymore. He's playing in this league. And then furthermore, what they did was kind of like start taking kids in as well. Like they took younger players. They were like, I'm not gonna wait until fucking they're supposed to be 18 or something like that. We'll draft them fucking young. If they want to play pro, they'll play pro. That's how Wayne Gretzky got into professional hockey that early. He got into the WHA when he was playing first in the Indianapolis Racers, then up to the Oilers and stuff. And at one point, he almost came here to Winnipeg. He was almost a Winnipeg player.
And how old was he? Sorry.
At this point, let me see, 18, 19, 20.
So he just turned
17 when he started playing in Indiana, yeah.
So wait, when he first hit...
Gretzky geeks are like fucking knife in my throat. 17, you fat piece of shit!
When he started playing for this...
It's cool.
When he started getting paid to play, he was how old?
I don't want to say now, you guys go.
When he first got paid to
Fucking know
play.
that again.
That's when you're a professional,
It's
right?
so weird, because I can talk Gretzky in America and they're like, he knows everything. When I drop shit here, they're like, that isn't even half true. You got him confused with Gordie Howe, you fat idiot. He was 17, I believe, when he signed his first professional contract. Thank you. By the time he left Indiana to go to Edmonton, I guess he was still 17, maybe on the border of 18, because he didn't play long in Indiana. He was there for a little bit for the Racers, playing in Indianapolis, and then they were like, nobody's coming. I don't give a shit that the world's greatest hockey player is here. This boy genius. And so they traded him. There was at one point he had a choice either go to the Jets. They were going to send him to the Jets, or they were going to send him to the Oilers. They wound up sending him to the Oilers. Peter Blocklington bought him, and boom, history's made. He goes to the Oilers. But that's not our story either. We're in Winnipeg. People was given $1 million to come play in Winnipeg. That essentially kickstarts the WHA. Suddenly it's legitimate. Other players from the NHL come over and stuff. And Bobby Hull comes out to play here. The team is initially named, kind of, after Bobby Hull, because he was known as the Golden Jet. And so when the team began, that too. Fucking Wikipedia, man.
Wait, they're saying they're named after the Jets, the football team?
Yes, Ben Haskin was apparently a big Jets fan, was he? Thank you. And so he was just like, fuck it, we're the Winnipeg Jets. But it just so happened that Bobby Hull was also called the Golden Jet. So the fucking thing worked out. Let's just, in the spirit of being fucking co-border partners, agree that we're both right. Embrace the cultural mosaic of Canada. So in any event, that happens. That kickstarts the fucking WHA. And Winnipeg is the epicenter for it. And so Winnipeg essentially, what is it? Portage and what is it? Portage and Front? Maine, Portage and Maine. That's where he gave him the big fat oversized check and shit. What is the thing where people go, it's 30 degrees below at Portage and Maine? What does that mean? What is that reference to?
It's cold!
That just means it's cold. Why don't you guys just say it's fucking cold? Is that code for when kids are around? It's 30 degrees below at Portage and Maine. In any event,
So wait, they gave him a big check on Portage and Maine.
yeah.
So
They do a
then,
lot of shit on Portage and Maine. Is that the big area? The big fucking, is that your like Broadway or something? Center of the state. There you go.
the center of the city.
We're learning shit today. And now we're gonna have to make it sound like a Winnipeg genius. Okay, so WHA kicks open its doors here. Bobby Hull's $1 million check kickstarts the WHA and the Winnipeg Jets. But then, ironically, then that kickstarts high salaries. People start getting paid now, the NHL players. Salaries start slowly escalating. After the Gretzky era, they go through the roof with the expansion into America. More teams, kind of franchises opening down here. Mid-90s, 95, Winnipeg is hurting big time because you can't sustain a small market hockey team paying massive salaries, which all of a sudden they were having to pay. So the owner of the team announced, like, we're gonna have to sell the Jets. And the town was heartbroken, but they were like, fuck this, we're gonna keep the Jets, save the Jets. And so this is, and this brings me back to the DVD I was talking about. This is my favorite part in the DVD, the story about how they try to save the team. They all band together as a community, they raised $13 million to keep the Jets here.